What is the Enneagram? By the end of this video or podcast, wherever you're watching or listening, you're going to understand the 9 different Enneagram types. I'm John O'White, founder and principal consultant of Clarity. We work with leaders around the world. Thank you for subscribing, following, liking, sharing. That really helps us to help more leaders to become the very best leaders they can be. And if you haven't done that yet, please do click subscribe, click follow, like, or share to help us get the word out. So what is the Enneagram? Well, the Enneagram is a personality profile, and the reason I love the Enneagram is it's very deep. There's a lot of other behavior and personality profiles that I've used: Myers-Briggs, DISC, Working Genius by Patrick Lencioni's The Table Group. There's a bunch of them. The Enneagram for me stands out because it's especially deep. It talks about motivations, what drives us, and there's levels of healthy to unhealthy, so you can really dig into it. I just recommend to you a book, The Road Back to You by Ian Morgan. I highly recommend that book if you're looking to really open up and get an understanding of the Enneagram for yourself. But let's dive in. So Enneagram Type 1. If you imagine there are 9 types, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's sort of 9 different types, and they do relate closely to each other. And so the way it works is there's all these 9 different numbers, and then you have a wing as well. So a Type 1 wing 9, Type 1 wing 2. So you always have a wing that's either side. So 9, for a 1 it's a 9 or a 2, for a 2 it's a 1 or a 3, for an 8 it's a 9 or a 7, etc. So it's the 2 numbers next to you, and they go around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1 around. So a Type 1 on the Enneagram. What is that? Well, I'm a Type 1, so let me talk about myself. The Type 1 is called the Reformer. And so a Type 1 is perfectionistic. The Type 1 is deeply motivated by anger. And you have the different triads of the Enneagram, which is around instinct and feeling and thinking. And you can dig into that yourself at a later date. But let me just say the 1 is called the Reformer. And 1s are very justice-driven, very deep sort of anger, deep-seated anger, and perfectionistic. That's just surface level. I'm a 1, so I own that there's much more to me than that. But let's keep going. Enneagram Type 2. The Enneagram Type 2 is called the Helper. So if you're an Enneagram Type 2, then my favorite line from Enneagram Type 2 is, you need a heart, have mine. It'll be fine. That's the Enneagram Type 2. Put myself last. Don't even think of myself. And so the Enneagram Type 2s are very focused on helping others. Once again, you can go a lot deeper, but I'm just giving you a quick summary. Enneagram Type 3, I have so many friends who are Type 3s. I love the Type 3. Type 3 is the achiever, driven by being the best. I want to be the best. I'm an achiever. Image conscious, focused on achieving. That's the Type 3. The Type 4, the individualist. The Type 4 in the Enneagram is about being unique. I want to be set apart. I don't want to be like everyone else. I've got to find who I am and what it is about me that's unique. Enneagram Type 5, the investigator, also called the specialist. I love the specialist. One of the things that stands out to me about the Type 5 Enneagrams is that they talk about their emotions being like an imposter. I'm doing my thing, and then this emotion, sadness. Oh, what's that? That's inconvenient. I don't really like whatever that is. So that's where, for a Type 5, the investigator or the specialist, emotions can be like a real imposter. So Enneagram Type 6. The Enneagram Type 6 is really interesting because you have Phobic and Counterphobic, and that's because the Enneagram Type 6 is really driven by fear. And so one thing, just once again, really surface level, that I've seen, a lot of Enneagram Type 6s are great at risk assessments because they're great at seeing what could go wrong. And we look at that and go, oh, we can look at that negatively, but that's actually such a gift. Particularly when you've got a team, it's so healthy to have different numbers represented, because imagine what could have gone wrong in the past if we didn't have people saying, whoa, what could go wrong here? The other thing about, I mentioned phobic, counterphobic, and that's basically to say with this type, because they're driven by fear, you have you actually have 2 different Type 6s. The phobic is where I'm afraid, and so I'm looking out to see what could go wrong, and because I'm afraid. Okay, so just basically is what it is. Counterphobic is where you've got a 6 who's driven by fear, but the way they live that out is that they are counterphobic. They actually rebel against the fear. They're like, I have this deep fear, And the way I'm going to deal with that is I'm going to face it head on, and I'm going to rebel against. So normal is the wrong word. A phobic 6, type 6 on the Enneagram, fear-driven, will be very look at authority figures, is very important for them. A counterphobic comes across extremely the opposite way. They're counter authority, super rebellious because they're pushing against where all their with their fear. So I've touched on a couple of things without going into it too much. Hope that's helpful. Type 7, the enthusiast. Okay, so our type 7s, their deep drive is fun. The type 7, I have a friend who is a 7, and you can sum up type 7s in one word: FOMO, fear of missing out. Type 7s plan their holidays in advance because I've got to have something to look forward to. They're always looking, and it's a deep sense of wanting to have fun. It's not just there's a really deep, it's a really positive thing. It can be healthy, it can be unhealthy, but wanting to have fun, which can sound so superficial, but it's not. They are such a joy to be around. In fact, one of the things about the different types in the Enneagram is that when you're really healthy versus unhealthy, you actually have a different type that you appear like. So I'm a type 1, and when I'm in a really healthy place, I look like a type 7. So a 1, perfectionistic, driven by anger, who's in a really healthy place, is a lot of fun to be around. And so that's, whereas when I'm unhealthy, I look more like a 4. So for me as a 1, the 4, remember, is that individualist, unique, I just want to work out who I am, which if that's who someone's made to be, then that's incredible. But for me, when I look like that, I'm not in a good place because I'm melancholy, melodramatic. That means I'm in an unhealthy place, and I found that to be very true for me. So back to type 7s, the enthusiasts, fun-loving, just a joy to be around. I have lots of friends who are 7s, and they make my life much better. And my wife Liz is a 6, type 6 with a 7 wing, and boy, she's so much fun, and I really appreciate that about her. Type 8, the challenger. Love a good type 8. The challenger, powerful. One of the things about an 8 is an 8 when they walk in the room. An 8, you'll be 20 people in a room, and then an 8 walks in, and you're drawn to them because they value confidence. They walk in confidence, and it's actually really interesting, but this is how they protect themselves. They protect themselves by challenging. And so an 8 will call someone on something. They'll step into the challenge. And what I love about the type 8 that blows my mind, and if you're a type 8, I wonder if you would identify with this. Type 8s actually experience intimacy and conflict and confrontation. So for a lot of us, we have a conflict and we are ready to run for our lives. And we're like, I can't believe I survived that. I'm alive. Yep, check my limbs. For a type 8, they'll have a confrontation with someone. I disagree. No, I disagree. I think this. No, that's not true. I think this. And a type 8 will actually go, I feel so close to that person now. That's what a type 8 is. And sometimes for a type 8, they'll feel like, what is wrong with you? Why are you reacting like that? We just had such a great conflict. I'm feeling so close to you now. So that's the Enneagram Type 8, the challenger. An Enneagram Type 9, this is my wing. Remember, every number has a wing either side. I'm a Type 1 with a 9 wing. So the Type 9 is the peacemaker. And so it's helpful with this one to look at it through the lens of the 8, because like I said, as you dig deeper into this, you'll see there's a lot of different correlations you can make between how the different types interrelate. One of the interesting things about the 8, 9, and 1, which is a triad, 8, 9, and 1. They're 3 that actually are all based on instinct, and there's a drive around anger. Okay, so a 1, which is me, internalizes their anger. So I don't want to be angry because I'm perfectionistic. I want to do the right thing, and then this anger bubbles out, and I'm like, I try to put it back in. So there's an internalization of anger, justice-driven. So once again, that can play out in beautiful, healthy ways, or it can look really ugly and be really unhealthy, right? All of us can be healthy or unhealthy at different times, and we want to be living in the healthiest way possible with our natural type. The 8, okay, same anger, but instead of internalizing it, I'm going to externalize it. I'm going to protect myself by, challenge that. I'm going to step up and challenge. And so 8's a beautiful protectors. Another thing that I read, you might assume that 8s would be the bully. No. Eights are much less often the bully, and much more often they're the kid that stands up for the kid being bullied. They're the kid that goes, whoa, hang on a second, person who's trying to act confident bully. Let me get in your face and challenge you. That's an 8, and that's really cool. So the 1s internalizing their anger, the 8s externalizing their anger, and then you've got the 9s, the peacemaker, ignoring their anger. Maybe if we just don't worry about it, it'll be okay. Okay, the 9s are the peacemaker. Now, I make light of that, but it's a beautiful gift to have a peacemaker. I know some wonderful 9s, and they honestly have such an ability to bring people together, to diffuse situations. So once again, healthy, unhealthy, right? We're not just, there's no right or wrong or good or bad Enneagram. It's all about finding out what your type is and working out what does it look like for me to be really healthy in terms of how I operate naturally. So easygoing, complacent, agreeable, reassuring. Let me give you an example of a 9, a very 9 thing. I think there can be a lot of indecisiveness for a 9. Peacemaker, so I care so much about. So if you're married to a 9, you have a friend who's a 9, you might say to them, oh, where do you want to go for dinner? And they'll go, And then they'll finally decide, it could go to one of these 3 places. Actually, no, let's go to that. Or, yeah, let's go to that place. And then you're on the way. Maybe you're an 8 and you go, I don't want to go there. I want to go there. They'll be really offended because they've taken all that time to get to that decision. But they'll probably say, yeah, okay. And so I love this idea of if you've got a 9 that's really close in your life, give them a couple of options. Say to them, and this is from The Road Back to You. I'm pretty sure Ian Morgan talks about this. If you've got a 9, say you're married to a 9, instead of saying, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? Say to them, do you want Thai, Chinese, or burgers tonight? And once you narrow down their options, it's much easier for them to decide, because what they'll often know is not what they want, but they'll know what they don't want. I don't want Thai, I don't want Chinese. Burgers. Okay, I'd like burgers. And then once they make their decision, zip it. No changing your mind, because the 9 making a decision is a big deal. And I reckon my wife Liz experiences this, because I do struggle when plans change, particularly when I've been involved in making them, because it takes so much effort for me to make a plan. And so by the time we get on board with it, and then Liz will say, oh, maybe we should do that. And I'll be like, but I'm a 9 wing. So someone who is a 9 is much less likely to react like that, and much more likely to react like that internally, but ignore it and go, yeah, okay. And so once again, I don't want to make fun of the 9s. I want to honor the peacemakers, because we need all the numbers. So if you're an 8 and you're feeling convicted about challenging everything that moves, hey, don't get too down on yourself for being a challenger. It's about how do you challenge healthily, because your natural challenging is a gift. If you're a peacemaker, and another thing about 9s, which some 9s don't like, for me as a 9 wing, I really embrace this. 9s often love sleeping, because resting and sleeping is such a, I just have experience from chatting with 9s, it is very built in to a 9, and definitely as a 9 wing, it's something I've learnt much more about myself. I love a good nap, I love a good sleep. We go away with friends and they're shocked at how much I sleep. It's true. And so that's a really quick overview of the Enneagram. If you found this helpful, and it's helped you to get clear in your leadership, or maybe in your family, or maybe in your relationships for a video or podcast like this, then comment with the word clarity. And I want to thank you again for listening or watching, and particularly for subscribing, following, liking, sharing. When you do that, it really helps us at Clarity to help more leaders to become the very best they can be. If you haven't done that yet, please do that now. Click subscribe, follow, like, or share wherever you're watching or listening, so that we can help more people. And it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, and to hopefully give you some valuable insight around the Enneagram. One of my favorite tools to use with teams and organizations of all sizes and all levels at the moment. I really am loving the Enneagram. It's just so deep, and I'm always looking for something that helps people to have aha moments, and I've experienced that. There's some big aha moments I've had, and I've seen other people have through the Enneagram. So I hope you found this valuable, and I look forward to catching you next time. Cheers.